Good morning to our viewers. Thank you for joining us on Friday morning's edition of Breakfast Central. It's been a very interesting week on television. Not very interesting for those who have had to be in petrol queues across Nigeria. But we thank you for being a part of the conversations that we've had all through the week. I am Osaogie Ogbawa.
And I am Olive Emodi. Thank you very much for wrapping up the week with us. It's been quite the interesting week, like Osaogie had said earlier, starting off with fuel scarcity, or continuing with fuel scarcity, and then the increase in the pump price of petrol, the announcement of the Dangote refinery being ready to roll, and now we're waiting till the weekend to find out what the costing will be, as Dangote refinery has said that they've not yet put out their prices officially. So we'll find out hopefully by Monday, or when you tune in for Breakfast Extra, you get to find out the details. But today, as we start the show, we're starting the show on some sad note. We'd like to hold a candle for Christina Idowu, who was murdered by a young man, unfortunately. I mean, I think that it's one of the saddest stories that we've talked about all week. She was a girl who was declared missing. She was allegedly kidnapped somewhere, I think, around the Ikorodu area, around Yaba. And for days, I mean, I did also share her flyer on social media. For days, her friends and her loved ones were looking for Christina. Unfortunately, the family had talked about being asked to pay ransom to the tune of 1.5 million. And this 23-year-old boy, Ayomide Adeleye, has been found, to have links to the story. Investigation is still ongoing, but he's been handed over to the Nigerian police, and this was confirmed by Benjamin Hundein. And it's just really the saddest story to talk about. This is a young woman who had life, and that's the face of Ayomide Adeleye, who is not a stranger to her. Somebody who, has known of her, or has had interactions with her, and was even expressing concern when people were talking about Christina Idowu being missing. The handover took place on the 5th of September at approximately 2 o'clock, and there'll be more investigation to find out what exactly happened. It's a 300-level student of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, and her mother has sparked outrage, not because this is not the first time that we're having conversations about this. If you look at the stats and the data, they will tell you 1 in 3 women are being murdered by, an intimate partner. In this case, it's not an intimate partner, but it is what motivates. I often wonder and worry about what motivates people to openly, or for whatever reason, decide to take another person's life, decide to take another person's future, because that's what he's done. He's stolen her life, stolen money from her family because they demanded ransom. In fact, it was, according to the report, it was the ransom that led them to the alleged killer, right? So it's just really, so many things come to mind. When I hear stories like this, my heart just breaks, because it feels like we are on this conversation over and over again. We had one last year in October. Like, there are many names. There's Justina. If we start to call names of a number of these women who have experienced this unfortunate end, we probably won't get out of here. And it's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Ayomide is the suspect in this case. The Lagos State, of course, Police Command is on it. I'm expecting that they would fully get to the bottom of the case, and see what else is there to unravel. From social media commentary, we've also seen or heard, that it may not be his first time, according to what social media commentary is saying. But of course, that is left for the police to also expose and uncover. But for persons like this, I always would say that our societies should make it clear, that things like this would never and should never be tolerated. I believe that we should have more or a lot clearer laws, for against gender-based violence and domestic violence and whatnot. Societal norms, traditional norms, some of all these things must also change in order to create a safer society for women in every way, shape, or form. If you remember, this is not the first. This is only just the latest that we've heard about. Remember the story about the lady who got into a BRT, and never made it out. Remember the story of the lady who was sexually assaulted in police station?
Yes.
If you remember also Osta and her partner, Killer Boy. If you remember that story.
Yeah, the one that ran to Senegal.
Yes, and according to them, he was arrested and then according to stories, was eventually, set free, and nobody has heard about that case till now. And I've posted about it, in the past, that we must continue to push for justice for Osta, and of course our mom has continued to say it as well. So it's one more case added to it, that must be fully investigated and fully prosecuted. I don't necessarily like the way the conversations have been on social media in the last 48 hours. They have been, filled with anger and a lot of bitterness, which is expected and which is not necessarily shocking because of how terrible this situation is. But it's a conversation that is important for everybody to have as to how we can create a safer society for everybody.
I think that the anger and the bitterness is justified. I think that it's important that people get angry, because if they don't get angry, we won't see the change that we should see. It's not just in Nigeria. In Uganda, there's the Rhonda Cheptegei who was killed and burned by her lover. And I know that the angle of the conversation that the angle of the conversation that I've been seeing a number of times is, and I'm going to make reference to something that you said earlier in terms of our societal norms. I feel that in some cases, when there's a killing of a woman, they oftentimes make it the responsibility of the woman. It's almost like a blame game on the survivor, which should not be. I saw a tweet by a popular person who said that women, in his bid to advise women to stop getting killed or to protect themselves from getting killed, he's telling them, oh, don't go to their... No. He was even saying, don't go to your boyfriend's house, don't date Yahoo boys. And I found that post very distasteful. Yeah. Distasteful because it takes away the blame from where the blame should be. You should tell the killers, stop killing people. You should tell these men, stop killing your partners, stop killing your sisters, stop killing these women, as opposed to making it the fault of the women that they are being killed. Yeah. How do you open up your heart to someone and trust them with your life? You date them for 3 years, and at the end, I mean, that's not the case in Christianity. I'm only talking about this in reference to those who have been killed by their intimate partners, because according to the stats, a majority of the women who are killed by their intimate partners. So how do you open your heart to someone? How do you trust this person? After spending maybe weeks, months, years with them, one day you end up in a body bag, sometimes butchered into pieces. In one of the scenarios, it was the smell of her body that the neighbors heard and alerted the police. And then when they came and checked, her breast was missing and her genitals were missing. So, I think the conversations should not be about putting the blame on the survivors. It should be more about teaching people, holding men. And I think that it's very important in scenarios like this. The man who put out that tweet should have held this man to account and said, you should protect women as opposed to hurting them, as opposed to endangering them. And I mean, we could go on and on with these conversations, but I don't know if they're getting maybe the only good thing we're seeing from there is that more people are talking about it. But I saw statistics about the number of domestic gender-based violence cases and the number of convictions is such a far cry. Yeah. It's a very difficult thing to prove. And also because we're in a society that still tells you, we glorify things like, oh, why not stay in your husband's house? If they are treating you badly, stay. Oh, they want people to have a certain image, rather than standing up to the person or standing up for the person who has survived and said, it's okay to come back home. Yeah,
those are the norms that I was referring to, that we found, ourselves, we found ourselves in that kind of society. Cultural expectations, with regards to marriage. When somebody, like you've mentioned, is suffering domestic violence, the family wouldn't accept her. They say, oh, don't come back to this house. So you already chose a husband, so you have to stay there. So those are things that need to change. Families need to, become more accepting of their daughters, if they find themselves in situations that are unbearable. For example, physical abuse in any way, shape, or form, domestic violence in their marital homes. Families need to be more protective and more accepting of their daughters back home. Marriage is not a do-or-die affair, but that is a, different conversation entirely. In this particular case, just like others, and I used it as a reminder that there's still justice that needs to be sought with regards, the ones that I mentioned earlier, Osta, for example, the BRT case, and of course the lady who was in the hospital.
Justice for Uwa.
Exactly. A couple of all those cases.
Justice for Christina. And it just feels like, what really hurts me about these conversations is it just feels like is a hashtag, ends at a hashtag, is justice for this one, justice for that one. And it could be one's sister tomorrow, it could be one's mother, it could be one's friend. And it even could be the fact that you think that it can be you tomorrow, really. So it just ends at justice hashtags. and I don't know what really is done to these killers and how we can ensure. I really don't know. Maybe these conversations, having them over and over again.
Generally, I think we've established that we have certain flaws in our criminal justice system. I don't think that there is any particular difference when it is gender-based violence. The criminal justice system generally has a lot of flaws that must be addressed in order for us to have a much safer and a much saner society. We've spoken about, these flaws multiple times. And unfortunately, when we see situations like this, they eventually also become one more case that is added to the flaws that we can spot in our criminal justice system that must be fixed.
So I hear you when you say that, our criminal justice system does have a flaw, but I disagree with you in saying that it's not particular to gender-based violence, because even from the manner in which gender-based violence is handled, again, because of our societal norms, there is still a flaw there. And I'll give you an example. I once took a woman who had been abused by her partner. She had gone to the police. She had gone to the police before she came to me, and the police had told her, oh, we don't handle it here, go and look for another station. It's a lackluster manner in which they handle it. And then they start asking her, what were you wearing? Why did you even go to the man's house? Those were the things. That is why I say that it is not a general thing. In this scenario, it is particular to gender-based violence, because we do have cultures that, unfortunately, promote violence.
It's two different things that we've mentioned. The criminal justice system that needs every loophole tightened, and of course, societal norms. When we spoke about societal norms before, that must be addressed.
The police is part of the criminal justice system.
Also, what I'm saying, the criminal justice system itself should have a completely blind face to those societal norms that you've mentioned. If a person has been accused of gender-based violence, domestic violence in any way, shape, or form, it should be fully prosecuted. The flaws in the criminal justice system are what make it easy for a person to then be throwing in societal norms and saying, oh, now man and woman fights, they pull them out, and then eventually allowing these two people to go back home to continue with the same situation. But I
think my final thought would be saying that it's not particular to not focusing on the fact that there is actually a problem with gender-based violence. It's similar in a way to when we then say people who complain about Black Lives Matter shouldn't say Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. That's the way that I see it. But then again, we can agree to disagree. But we'll continue the conversation because we're still talking about justice for Christina. It's one of our conversations later today. Let's share with you what our top stories are, and then we'll bring you breakfast headlines. Julius Abure rejects Governor Oti's reconciliation panel. It's still the madness in the Labour Party that's been going on. We'll talk about that. Edwin Clark calls for Wike's sack over fire in State's comment. There are a number of people who have asked that he be held accountable. But is Wike bigger than PDP? It's still an ongoing conversation. Borno governor reports 90% reduction in insurgency. Police arrest killer of FNAB 300 level student Christina Idowu. We'll be bringing more details on that. We review the newspaper front pages with our analysts and with you when we open the phone lines. Let's go now and bring you breakfast headlines.
Our breakfast headlines begins with updates on the lingering fuel scarcity. The federal government has assured Nigerians that premium motor spirit, PMS, commonly known as petrol, will be available nationwide before the weekend. The federal government gave the assurance through the Minister of State for Petroleum, Heineken Lopobiri, on Thursday, who addressed reporters at the State House after a meeting with the Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa in Abuja. The meeting was convened by the Vice President and included the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Mele Kyari, and the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. And also in the news, elder statesman and former Minister of Information has condemned the statement made by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, saying that he will set fire to states governed by governors under the platform of the People's Democratic Party. Edwin Clark, who spoke to newsmen in Abuja while calling on the Inspector General of Police to effect the arrest of the minister, says that his comments were made in bad faith and negates every rule of the nation's constitution.
Wike has breached a number of Nigerian laws, public laws, and so on. He has committed crime. And for him to call on to say that he will burn states belonging to PDP governors and so on, is treasonable. All of that totality, Wike has committed treason. There is a serving minister in the Federal Republic of Nigeria saying that he will burn the states of his colleagues, he will burn their hands and they won't sleep again in their houses. He will do everything to disorganize the governments of those states. Nobody, no governor, no minister.
Away from that, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has slammed the federal government, saying that they remain engrossed in inconsequential affairs despite rampant destruction across the country. He said the government is rather preoccupied with arresting protesters than addressing the worsening insecurity in the country. In a post on his X page, Abubakar condemned the terrorist attack in Yobe State on Sunday, which claimed several lives. Now, the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, has commiserated with the families of the victims of Tuesday night's attacks on Dafo and Kwatas community that left 8 people dead. The renewed attacks, according to the locals, were unprovoked as they were asleep when the unknown gunmen stormed the villages and opened fire on the victims. Speaking at an event, the senior special advisor to the governor on security matters said the state will leave no stone unturned to ascertain the cause of the brutal act and how best to forestall a reoccurrence.
This is a one-off occurrence. After quite a long while, I think, especially on the plateau, we've not had this kind of attack until yesterday. So I will not really say it's been on the increase. And there can be many reasons for that. We are looking into it to be able to profile what the real issue is and then provide solutions. But I think it's just one of those things where people, we know that there are some people that are not happy when they see there's peace on the land and people are happy, they don't like it. And we think it is one of those groups that must have done what they did yesterday. And we are looking at it and we should be able to nip it in the bud before it goes any further.
And now the first shipment of vaccines against Mpox donated by the European Union and manufactured by a Danish laboratory have arrived in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The first batch of 99,100 vaccines was delivered by plane to the Congolese capital, Kinshasa, at midday, according to an AFP journalist at the airport. The remaining 200,000 doses are due to be delivered by another flight on the 7th of September.
Vous savez déjà qu'on attendait fermement ces vaccins. Vous savez que dans toutes nos annonces, nous avons dit, parmi les mesures pour répondre à Mpox, nous avons besoin des vaccins. Des vaccins qui ont déjà fait leurs preuves parce qu'ils ont été utilisés massivement déjà. Depuis 2022, il y a déjà plus de 400 000 personnes qui ont été vaccinées en Europe, aux États-Unis, parce que vous savez, ces vaccins. Mais ce sont des vaccins qui sont chers, que nous ne pouvons pas en tant que pays acheter. C'est pour cela que nous avons besoin des partenaires. Et nous remercions beaucoup l'Union européenne qui fait ce premier lot, qui nous amène ce premier lot, qui vient de contribuables européens, qui vient des stocks européens, mais qui permet que nous ayons déjà la capacité de contenir ces virus. Et donc,
and that's all on Breakfast Headlines. We'll move back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogi Ogbon.
The governor of Borno State in Nigeria's northeast, Professor Babagana Zulum, announced that insurgents in the region has decreased by over 90%. The governor used the occasion of a courtesy visit by the National Assembly Committee on Reformatory Institutions to highlight the substantial improvement in peace and security since the peak of Boko Haram's control over 22 local governments. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
People now go about their day-to-day activities in the struggle for survival in Maiduguri, the Borno State capital.
In Borno State, there was a time when about 22 local government areas were under the control of Boko Haram insurgents. There was a time when out of the 4 major roads that we have in the state, only one was working, the road between Maiduguri to Kano. All other roads were closed down. Our airport was closed, no telecommunication in Maiduguri. But we thank God, with the help of the Almighty Allah, fit, and the insurgency has now been reduced by over 90%. Maiduguri is more peaceful than Abuja. You can walk out 2 o'clock, 3 a.m., nothing will happen to you, inshallah. I've done so much in the areas of peace building, social cohesion, and stability. We reduce the trust deficit between the population and the government, which is very important. People have faith in the government of Borno State now.
The ongoing collaborative efforts of security forces, local vigilantes, and communities saw this turn around.
There's mismatch between our graduates and the labor market. The only way we shall get out of this crisis is to ensure that the younger ones are given these skills so that they can earn their means of livelihood by themselves.
National Assembly Committee on Reformatory Institutions are here to discuss areas of collaboration to improve correctional services.
We recently passed a bill called Correctional Service Trust Fund, in the sense that the fund will be made for all the correctional centers because the staff there are not properly trained and they have a little salary to think of. But if the trust fund is being implemented and signed by Mr. President, it will help to provide funds to rehabilitate, to build and integrate all the inmates in the whole country.
The committee's visit underscored the importance of continued collaboration in strengthening ties and maintaining peace. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Thanks to Umaru Kirawa for that. And now moving away from there to the Niger Delta, the leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Edwin Clark, has called for the arrest of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, over comments he made at the PDP Congress in Rivers State. If you recall, Nyesom Wike had threatened to put fire in states of governors supporting Sim Fubara, the Rivers State governor, with whom he has been at odds. Clark, in an open letter, urged the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to arrest Wike for attempting to sabotage Fubara's government, citing previous instances where others were arrested for similar threats.
The elder statesman cited the arrest of NBAD governance protesters and the arrest of Omoyele Sowore over similar or less implicating threats against public peace and public officials. He emphasized that no one is above the law and that Wike's actions are a threat to public peace and order.
Wike has breached a number of Nigerian laws, public laws, and so on. He has committed crime. And for him to call on, to say that he will burn states belonging to PDP governors and so on, is treasonable. All about totality. Wike has committed treason. There is a serving minister in the Federal Republic of Nigeria saying that he will burn the states of his colleagues, he will burn their hands and they won't sleep again in their houses. He will do everything to disorganize the governments of those states. Nobody, no governor, no minister can go to that extent.
And that there is the statement of the elder statesman talking about the statement that Nyesom Wike made. Now, the conversation has been ongoing for the longest time regarding whether Nyesom Wike is bigger than the People's Democratic Party or not. There are those who feel that what he's done is just normal politics, especially the Nyesom Wike supporters. But majority of the people have seen that the statements, or have said that the statements were insightful and that the DSS should have invited Nyesom Wike for questioning. What exactly does he mean by he will set fire to the states?
Yeah, and I mean, from the conversations that we've had, you know, different people have their own different explanations as to what that means. You know, some people say it's just politics. Some of them, of course, just like Chief Edwin Clark now saying that he's going to burn the states, you know, which is almost a totally different explanation. People might say it's really, you know, him threatening to cause political chaos in the state. You know, all of them, you know, are all different explanations, but it may be also be, you know, I think it's fair that he is invited to at least answer what exactly he means by put fire to the states. And it also puts, you know, calls to question what level of political weight that Nyesom Wike has in these different states, being run by PDP governors. What weight does he have? What capacity does he have to control the political scene in those states? And how many people are maybe eager to be used as pawns in Nyesom Wike's game if he decides to actually cause chaos in those states? And it's not necessarily, to set fire to the place and burn the state down. I don't expect that that's what he meant. But, it calls to question how many people are maybe willing to be used as pawns, to cause, that level of chaos. Is the PDP itself, as a political party, willing to take action to raise those questions and to maybe checkmate some of the excesses that have been pointed out by Nyesom Wike? The other PDP governors, what really will their response be to a situation like this? Are they still going to be in support of Sim Fubara or not?
If it was, my question is, if it was Sim Fubara that said what Nyesom Wike said, will they have had some measure of calm and peace? Would they have taken a line down? If Nyesom Fubara had said, those that are trying to destabilize River State, that are trying to not allow me do my job as governor, that are supporting my enemies or whatever, who wants to take away the structure that I'm fighting for and give it to the people not in power, I pity them because I will set fire to their states. If Siminalayi Fubara had said that, what would have happened? By now, we wouldn't have heard word. All the Nyesom Wike supporters would have jumped out to tear him apart and talk about how he's not not much of a great governor and how what he said is insightful. So let's not be selective with our idea of what justice is, because or our idea of what is right and what is wrong, because it's selective criticism we're doing. Because the thing we should always ask, if Sim said the same thing, if Sim did the same thing, would they cut him? Would they cut him some slack?
For now, it's really just political speech. He hasn't necessarily committed any actual, offense or any crime. He can say what he wants.
You can't say what you want in Nigeria, because Nigeria, they will pick you for saying if you're not.
If it is, so it's left for the government to then determine whether it is insightful or not. It's a different thing from when people were being threatened to, during the elections and asked to not come out to vote. Those ones, you can directly say, okay, this is insightful. And of course, you can remember that it did lead to violence against persons who came out to vote. So those ones, are clear. This one is left for, the Nigerian state and the Nigerian police to determine whether it is, insightful or not, and if it warrants him being questioned or being investigated and all of that. I remember we also had, a conversation with, someone sometime last week or early this week where he had his own interpretation and he described it as, just politics and, of course, the need for Nyesom Wike to protect his political structure in River State, which I, found very interesting and found very funny, because, again, what exactly is the value of that political structure to development and to governance in River State? The only thing that these two persons should be focused on, as an ex-governor, if he still has some level of relevance, is ensuring that River State is, properly governed well. But he doesn't even have that level of relevance, because he's no longer governor. There's a new governor in the state.
It's the same when things happen here. Maybe sometimes we hear comments and speeches from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He's not in charge. They can always go to him for advice and counsel, but they are not bound to go to him.
And that's exactly what I mean. He doesn't have that level of relevance. There's currently a new governor who should be interested. But if he continues to stoke tension in River State and doesn't allow Sim Fubara to govern to the best of his abilities, and if, of course, Sim Fubara continues to fight these political wars for the next 3-4 years without being able to fully govern River State, then both of them, I believe, should be blamed. And the PDP itself as a party should be blamed for not being able to control these two persons that are governors, or rather that key members in their party, to allow for governance. It's the people of River State that would suffer. And I did, raise those questions, in a couple of days ago, asking if the people of River State, eventually suffer for the next 4 years, due to poor governance, as a result of these two people, how do we find people not completely disgusted by this battle that has been going on since a week after inauguration? How, don't we have members of the PDP in River State and nationwide completely disgusted by this battle that has been going on? How do you still find people defending it? Another 4 years will go by and the River State people will not be able to get the full level of governance that they deserve in River State because of one person who has decided to impose himself, according to what it seems, to impose himself on the structure in River State and on governance in River State. So it's a very pitiable situation, and again, it's left for the PDP as a party to know what actions that it must take.
Will the PDP take any actions is another question, because like people have asked, all the things that Nyesom Wike have done, many have said that a number of his actions have amounted to anti-party activities, with dating back to the elections and how River State carried along with when the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, remember the saga with the stadium the other time when they wanted to come and do their campaign in the stadium, and there was rumors of them not being allowed, or stories of them not being allowed, and they said, oh, they hadn't taken permission. It just felt like, I mean, typically you would think that one would give an easier landing to the leader of their political party, but it wasn't what we saw happening in River State. Again, it comes back to the question, with all the actions, they've gone through G5, they've done all that drama. Nyesom Wike has come out as, he's no more the governor. He's serving under the current administration in another party with the APC. All of this. Philip Shaibu, I don't know if Philip Shaibu did as much as this. I mean, I don't know. But Philip Shaibu was expelled from the party because he blatantly and openly supported someone else from another political party. And a number of the actions, I mean, they say he revealed government secrets, and they said the number of things he did was anti-party. What Nyesom Wike has done, is it anti-party? Will they even be able to call him to face disciplinary action? Or is Nyesom Wike really just bigger than the party and they are ashamed to admit that?
It's left for the party to decide, but of course everyone's watching. And I think, the whole country is watching to see how things play out and turn out, with the PDP. This is an opportunity for them to, to tell Nigerians exactly what kind of party that they are, or not. All right. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we, of course, would expand on these conversations. We have interesting guests joining us to share their views on these issues. Stay with us. The crisis within the Labour Party has escalated as the national chairman, Julius Abure, rejected the 29-member interim committee established by the Abia State Governor Alex Otti and other stakeholders of the party. Abure described the committee as illegal and unconstitutional. The committee, led by Senator Esther Nenadi Usman, was tasked with conducting party congresses and a national convention within 90 days.
However, Abure's National Working Committee dismissed the committee, stating that there is no leadership vacuum in the party. The crisis has sparked divisions within the party, with some members calling for unity and support for the caretaker committee. Joining us this morning is public affairs analyst Devo Okorie. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
The Labour Party was that party that no one saw coming in 2023 elections. They came with such a force. But in the past year, we've seen that there have been a number of divisions within the party, and that has in some measure affected or poked at the strength and the unity of the party. With Julius Abure being, quote-unquote, kicked out, and the transition committee, 29-member transition committee being set up, do you think that this is the Labour Party on its way in the right path, to the right path? Even though Julius Abure is kicking against this, do you think that this is a step in the right direction for the Labour Party?
I have to say, quite frankly, that Labour is about to head down the same road that the PDP in the troubled state is in at the moment. And I guess most of our political parties literally do the same thing. We have an issue with complying with our own rules, our own constitution. As you know, the committee, the caretaker committee that was brought together under the auspices of the Abia State Governor, under the Labour Party rules, is unconstitutional. Simply saying it takes the National Working Committee to come together to be able to have any sort of meeting. Now, as you can see, whilst they had that meeting with the presence of Peter Obi, the presidential candidates, with the only governor that they have, the Abia State Governor, Alex Otti, as well as some key aspirants in the last election. It does bring some credibility from an optical point of view, but it is not in line with their own constitutional laws as to how stakeholder meetings are had, how authorization is given, which is why you see the kickback from the Abure-led faction. Now, whether as to if Abure is still the legit chairman or not, I just feel that if political parties cannot obey their own rules, why should we hand over government to them? It's the same issue in the PDP when Wike raised the issue on the party chairman coming from the north, as well as having the presidential candidates coming from the same north, which was what caused the divide in the PDP, where 5 governors left, so to speak, and started supporting another party simply because they could not follow their own rules. And I don't know. It's a problem, because if we can't follow our own rules in the least, what are we really telling the general public?
Well, I mean,
I'm
sure that
Labour, I can assure you.
Yeah, I'm expecting that, they will go to court, and of course, try to establish whether the rules were followed or not. I expect that Julius Abure will do that, and of course, other members in support of him. But I want you to, speak on the seeming vote of no confidence on Julius Abure and his leadership of the Labour Party. Would you agree that it has been building for a bit, and the party itself, may have decided that it needs to purge itself of Julius Abure?
How did they say it? He that comes for equity must come with clean hands. It's clear that Abure's tenure was highly controversial. I think many people know that when the Obedience joined the Labour Party, they joined in a manner that was not, following the normal process. It was just a quick fix to be able to present Peter Obi for the elections. Given the fact that Peter Obi's presence obviously brought some heightened, attention on the Labour Party. Most of our parties act as shopping list of who can get myself out there. They don't actually have strong ideologies. They're more or less up to the highest bidder. I expected Labour after the election to have found a way to have regularized whatever happened just before the election, so that they would avoid the calamity that you see going on today. It's not about Abure. It's about a party that needs to get its act together. And those parties have bylaws. They have constitutions. They're not a new party. And I think parties need to start walking the talk, because if you cannot, almost all Nigerian parties are enmeshed in one mess or the other. Why can't compliance be enforced? Why can't they stick to the rules? APGA has the same issue. APC has the same issue. The PDP has the same issue. Now we're discussing Labour. It just seems as if we're not ready to do things as they should be. And that is why we keep getting these results.
All right. Let's also talk about the leadership of the party here in this case, being the person of the former governor of Anambra State, but Peter Obi. Let's talk about how he's been able to lead the party. There are those who have applauded him, and we do know that the Labour Party got the popularity that it got at the last elections because of the influence of the Peter Obi movement, the obedience, they say. But in the most recent times, he's been criticized because of the way he's handled the party. Some feel that he should have had a stronger hand towards the party. He's also been criticized by the likes of Kenneth Okonkwo. Let's talk about your thoughts on how he has handled the party so far, and what are your projections for how you see maybe the participation in the next elections? Do you think that they're able to put their house in order, or do you think that by the next elections, Obi might not be a part of the Labour Party?
Well, I hope people understand how politics is played in Nigeria. Politics in Nigeria is numbers and consensus. Let me repeat myself. Politics in Nigeria is numbers and consensus. It's not so much about the platform you're on. The platform you're on gives you the opportunity to come on board. Then if you need to grow your base, that it means you need to go into consensus with both your party members as well as other political parties that exist in this country. And I think that is a game Peter Obi, like any other smart politician, is playing. I believe that he has his own style, okay? He's not as abrasive and as contentious as every other politician, which is why Okonkwo had an issue with him. However, I believe Itobi is looking at other options to achieving the presidential mandate come 2027. So the point is, as to whether he is going to be on the Labour platform, because he's already said it clearly that the obedient movement are not a property of Labour, not an asset of Labour. They're a movement on their own. As to whether he's going to use Labour for the 2027 run, the jury is still out there. As you know, there are conversations going on with even the PDP, the SDP, to see how they can rally together, and even members of the Association of Political Parties in Nigeria, because that's how politics works. For example, the APC was a merger of the ANPP, the AC, and the CNPC, right? They formed the APC. Now, when they went for the bid, it just wasn't the APC that came out. You had some members of the PDP that left. That was the new PDP, and merged with them. And what you have today is a ruling party called the APC. If you're going to have to topple that, you will definitely have to play the same game of having your members, and if you don't have enough numbers, you improve that by consensus with other parties. That's how politics works. No matter how you slice it, you don't have the numbers, you don't have the consensus, you're not winning anything.
All right. What do you think happens next? Does Julius Abure go to court? Will the party, be able to somehow, some way mend fences, across board? Or do you expect that, the battle continues, until there, is maybe a court decision that determines who is the substantive chairman of the Labour Party?
Like you've seen, even the Abaramba-led faction that gave Labour their issues from inception, and they claim that Abure was not even the chairman, and at some point they took a U-turn on that. Labour Party will continue, but the only problem that it will remain enmeshed in a lot of rancor, and unfortunately, that is not the best position to be in to push your position forward as an alternative party for people to vote for. Like I mentioned to you, of course, Abure will go to court. The court process is slow. The stakeholder meetings that you saw with the Nendi Usman, now appointed caretaker committee chair, until she brings about an election that will bring a substantive chair, will all be enmeshed in a lot of rancor, like we've seen it before. So it's nothing new. It just simply means, and I have to say this, that if Labour remains in rancor, and the PDP, as you can see, is still in rancor, can't get its act together, it's a clear and clean road for the for the APC to remain in power. So I'm just hoping that Labour can get its act together, because we do, as a nation, dearly need a credible opposition to check the ruling party for where they are excessive or where they miss it.
Okay. All right. In 30 seconds, can you quickly just share your views on state of the nation as it stands? The current petrol scarcity and the Nigerian government's response to it, and just generally the way that they have run the country in the last 1 year plus.
It's been heavily challenged. As you know, most Nigerians are groaning under the cost of living crisis. I wish we had more time for this, but my recommendation is that Nigerians need to rally together to have the courage to get off the criminal subsidy. Subsidy is good, but when it's abused, it becomes a cancer. The NNPC is still not selling petrol price, that the 890 still has a 200 to 300 naira subsidy on it. That is the opportunity for this same government to continue paying the criminal subsidy. And it means we'll continuously go through this scarcity over and over again. Just like AGO, when you remove the subsidy and you deregulate 100%, first of all, you will see fuel in every petrol station. The price will be higher, yes, but the point is we will have sufficiency of product everywhere. 2, how will people cope with extreme prices of inflation? Apart from the CNG, which needs to be accelerated, because if fuel is at 1,002 or 1,500, CNG should come at 600 naira. Nigerians need to learn that the improved revenue to governments that comes with increased sales, okay? Let me repeat myself. The improved revenue, when Tinubu removed subsidy, there was an improvement of 40% on both the federal and the state governments. Nigerians are not asking the state governors what they've done with the money.
Right.
This is where the problem lies. Nigerians need to take responsibility.
Yeah, I do think that, I mean, this is a conversation that we cannot exhaust today. We're hoping that we'll come back. I want to take a very quick break. We'll come back and we'll have you wrap up your thoughts in maybe 2 minutes of that conversation. Welcome back. We're now still joined by Devo Okorie, and he will be talking to us as quickly as possible about the state of the nation. Thank you very much for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we had a conversation about the Labour Party, their journey so far, projections for the future, and now we're stopping at the state of the nation. So your final thoughts on the state of the nation?
Yeah, so like I said, Nigerians need to hold their leaders accountable for the promises that they gave them during elections. We just came out from a protest a month ago, and you saw how government was getting agitated, that its own citizens were complaining about the hungry state and the anger in the land. This should not be so. It's a democracy. Now, there are other means of protest, I would say, that Nigerians need to learn to take up so that they can push their pains on their leaders to make a difference for them. Now, the insecurity, by now we should have resolved the state police constitutional reform. We haven't done that. As you can see, we're going through the petroleum crisis, which has a direct impact on the economy. And because of that, because we don't understand that the criminal subsidy is the reason why we keep going through this back and forth, we continue pushing for it. So I'm asking Nigerians to find ways of holding leadership accountable. You may never see Tinubu in your lifetime. He sits in Aso Rock. He governs 36 states plus the FCT. But you have your governors. Your governors have a direct responsibility to you, at least for now, since they haven't started the LGA direct line charge. Your governors literally have about 50% of what is split from the federal government to contend with. They should be telling you where this money is spent, the taxes you pay. They should be telling you how they spend this money or what benefit is it of you. The wrong way to run a nation is when citizens elect and go to bed for 4 years, and then politicians and private sector operators take advantage and just do what they like. It's not like that in any other climate. We have to wake up. The truth is the future is in our hands. And I mean that literally. If we don't hold and put pressure on our governments, they will continue more or less doing as they wish. If you can't sleep,
Mr. Okorie,
your government should not be sleeping. If you can't sleep, your government should not be sleeping.
it may have been easier, if we had a government that is open to being criticized, but it doesn't seem like we have that. But we'll talk again. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, for sharing your thoughts with us on these very important topics. We wish you an interesting day ahead.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's now find out what the papers are saying this morning. We're joined by public affairs analyst Razak Olokoba. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Happy Friday. Let's get to the papers. We'll start with this Nigerian newspaper, and on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper this morning, the stories there are fuel price crisis, not our making. Minister Lokpobiri says we don't fix prices. Poverty will be worsened, says TUC. It's grossly insensitive. Reps Minority Caucus declares wants urgent reversal. Court reserves ruling in Binance executive application over $34.4 million alleged fraud. NEMA confirms 2 dead, 2 injured in Kano building collapse, not again. Oyo demolishes structures harboring illegal diesel marketers. Africa-China trade partnership hits $280 billion. And that's all that we have. Let's move over to the Daily Independent newspaper.
On the Daily Independent, Tinubu tasked NNPC Limited and others to address fuel scarcity and pricing. Federal government advises against panic buying, claims PMS availability. Says petrol will be available throughout the country by weekend. Yay. To allow Dangote's refinery set petrol prices from October. Clark asked IGP to arrest Wike over threat to put fire in PDP states. Nigerians face hurdles with new UAE stringent visa policies. And also NNPC yet to lift our products, says Dangote Refinery. CSOs give federal government 7 days to address all and bad governance cases. And also Burkina Faso introduced new passport without ECOWAS logo. We can also talk about the Xi Jinping pledging $50 billion for Africa to shore up China's influence. But before we get our guest to share his thoughts on these stories, let's quickly stop over, take a quick trip to South Africa, where there is a new story concerning the crisis in the Middle East. And of course, the call for children from Gaza seeking refuge in South Africa. Let's head to the Middle East quickly. Absolutely.
The war continues to take a catastrophic toll in Gaza, and children are the most affected with lack of medical facilities and enough doctors and specialists. Those with complicated medical conditions are left more vulnerable. Around 5,000 people have been evacuated for treatment outside Gaza, with over 80% receiving care in Egypt, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates.
Now, South Africa has also received those who need medical care after being evacuated from Gaza. Since the 7th of October 2023, life has changed beyond recognition for the 2.2 million people living in the Gaza Strip. Now, while children are always the innocent victims of any violent conflict or crisis, the impact of this war on children is unprecedented. With over 17,000 children killed and over 20,000 missing, 10,000 more that are displaced and separated from family, trapped under the rubble, and many who have not been identified or collected. We, of course, we'll be having a conversation with Bongani Siziba later today on the program to discuss these issues and, of course, the response from the South African government that has seen appeals for children from Gaza to seek refuge in South Africa.
And just to add that some of the kids are coming in this morning. They'll be jetting in this morning, and she's reporting to us from the OR Tambo Airport. We'll be joining her, or we'll have her join us shortly. But now let's get into the papers this morning. We still have Razak Olokoba, who's here with us, and we're looking at the front pages. I think we should have one more paper to look at. Let's look at the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning, the big story there says, NNPC ties Dangote petrol price to forex rate. NNPC begins lifting Dangote refinery petrol September 15th. Vessels begin offloading, queues worsen. I'm hoping that we'll not hear mother-daughter vessel again by the time they start offloading from Dangote. Terrorism financing, police to quiz Ajaero September 25th. PSP officials condemn members' arrest over land dispute. Reps back ban on under 18 SSC and UTME candidates. 63 TCN towers destroyed in 8 months, says federal government. Massive flooding to hit states. 7 states soon, says government. And ICPC grills in Ngige over NSITF contracts. We have some smaller stories there. APC chances getting brighter, says ex-speaker. And PDP will ensure continuity in governance, says Ighodalo. And that's, of course, referring to the politics of the elections coming up in Edo State. But let's talk about the big story here, the NNPC tying Dangote petrol price to forex rate. NNPC, and this is a very, I don't quite understand this. I'm hoping that maybe we can have some clarity. There's been a bit of concern as to what will officially become the pump price of petrol, seeing as now they no longer have to import. They're getting directly from Dangote. One of the hopes that Nigerians had would be that this would reduce the pressure that would be on forex, and as such, we would then maybe start to see the Naira not having to hemorrhage as frequently as it does, or as it's been in the past few years. So talk to us about your thoughts regarding the impact of the Dangote refinery on fuel production, and fuel distribution within Nigeria.
Well, it's supposed to ease the challenge we have for local consumption. And I'm amazed that NNPC is coming around to say that it's going to be determined by forex again. That's not correct, too. What should determine Dangote's price should be cost of production, not forex rate. Because that's what we are running away from. That's why we are encouraging local production. Why will our commodity we are consuming in Nigeria be determined by the rate of dollar? I think we should not allow that to happen. It's not a correct thing. No. You see, since 1985, we have been having this challenge of turnaround maintenance with our refineries. I know oil and gas sector is energy. Energy anywhere in the world is a serious business. Indeed. If you remove energy in the world today, the world is going to stand still. Okay. So any country that is having energy, access to energy in terms of natural resources, should manage it very well. And that is one of the reason why any smart president in Nigeria will be the Minister for Petroleum. The responsibility, any smart president in Nigeria.
So you endorse that?
No, it's not endorsed. It should be it's not proper, but any smart president will be the Minister for Petroleum.
So why?
Because responsibility that the federal government perform is so much. The major source of income of Nigeria is oil. So you expect him to hand it over to somebody. He will not.
Has the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has he fared well?
The challenge
so far
we have, that was where I was coming to,
okay.
that emotions will not help us anytime you want to dissect public policy. There is no Nigerian president that is not increasing fuel price. And that's not correct. So we must examine what is wrong with us as a people.
Okay.
That why do we keep having this kind of challenge? One thing.
We'll
and that thing is Dangote, that FX is coming into it again.
I will come back to this conversation. The conversation is the role of the president as the Minister of Petroleum, how effective he has been, because you say that any smart president should be the Minister of Petroleum. But let's head to South Africa this morning. We're joined by Bongani Siziba, News Central's correspondent in South Africa, as she brings us updates where the kids are jetting in this morning, crossing over to South Africa for some shelter. Good morning, Bongani. Talk to us about the updates regarding these kids who are unfortunate recipients of war.
Good morning, Olive, and also good morning to our viewers. Yes, it's quite a sad day, especially when you see kids that are coming in injured. Yesterday, I was at the hospital in Pretoria, where I saw two of these kids that were injured. One of the kids was telling me that she was bombed at school, and the other kid was also at her home, where they were bombed by Israel. We know the war that is happening between Israel and Hamas, where the people in Gaza are taking a lot from being bombed. There's no medication in hospital. A lot is happening there. But today I'm here at the OR Tambo International Airport, where some of the relatives, or rather South Africans, are here just to welcome one of the kids that is coming through, just to get that medical attention here in South Africa. But with me, I have some people who are here who have just come to welcome, to give that gesture of help to these kids. Let me just take one or two of these people just to hear their views, what they think about this gesture that South Africa has taken. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here at News Central TV. How do you feel about this gesture?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. You know what? I think this gesture is very big, and it speaks on behalf of South Africans of all nationalities. We are here in solidarity with Palestine. I think this is the least we can actually do for them. It's no brainer. We're watching the worst criminal and crimes in history being committed. The least we can do is show them our support, because the only thing they are holding on to currently is their faith. And in us showing them solidarity, opening our arms to them, we're hoping to give them extra hope. We're hoping to get our message very much across, because they are not witnessing any justice. The world system has failed them considerably, and we want them to know we will never stop fighting.
Okay, let me just speak to this one. How do you feel about this gesture that South Africa is giving a chance to the kids from Gaza?
So I would feel as a South African that, you know what, I would love to help a lot more kids, more than just only having 3 years. I think it's a really good gesture of me as a going out that extra mile of getting the kids here. I know they do want to bring a lot more, like over 2,000 kids for treatment. But yeah, I just hope that by giving them this treatment that I don't know.
Okay, so emotional there, Olive. You can see that people are so emotional with this gesture that MIL SA and also South Africa is giving that opportunity to the children who are in Gaza. Yesterday, like I indicated, that I was at the hospital. The visuals that I saw there, it's something that you would not want to see twice. But any minute from now, behind me, one of the children that is coming from Egypt will be coming through those doors. And if I can ask my camera person just to pan out, just to show you how many people are here at the airport, just that gesture for South Africa that they are doing to the people of Gaza, showing that solidarity, not just solidarity of words, but also actions, showing that solidarity to the children of Palestine, who their innocent have taken by war. It's back to you in the studio now, Olive.
Just quickly, I want to know, if you've spoken with South Africans themselves, and I want to know what, their mindset is concerning this. Are they excited to welcome these Palestinians to South Africa? All right. Well, I think we probably would, reconnect with Bongani Siziba much later, and of course, see how things go today, as more and more children pour in from Gaza into South Africa. Really, really painful story there.
Well, very heartbreaking to read.
Yes,
I did see one of a family trying to decide which child they were going to send for medical aid, and it was just really sad. It's sad to see what's happening and how these kids are the ones who have to bear the brunt, and I wish that we wouldn't have to see wars again, And I wonder if Nigeria would ever be in a place where we can offer aid to countries at war.
Because in the past, even for South Africa.
No, I'm talking of I'm talking of now, in this. Now we're looking now into the future.
Our problem is complicated.
Yes, we did that for South Africa.
Our problem is complicated, but recently we stopped being the big brother in Africa when it comes to war-torn countries. And that's the price we are paying now. Countries who are producing gun all over the world are not happy that Nigeria is a country that goes to Liberia, everywhere in West Africa to go and stop war. So they gave us our own war too. And so when you are fighting Boko Haram, fighting IPOB, fighting all short of war, let me see how we are going to be going to Liberia to go and keep peace there. So we have done so many things to keep Africa united in the past, and as activists too. I know one minute we have gone to Pan-African Congress to marshal position for our black brothers. But it's a good gesture, and I hope other people in the world will also compliment it. Particularly people who are saying that the war going on there should stop. Countries like Turkey, countries like Saudi Arabia, and particularly countries like America and Britain, who fuel the war with bullets and guns. The war should just stop. It's not good moment in the history of our world that we are seeing what is going on in Gaza.
I totally agree with you. Let's quickly, get back to the newspapers. You were speaking in defense of the president being the Minister of Petroleum.
No, I'm not speaking in defense. I'm saying the most appropriate thing for any president for him is to be the accounting officer of the oil and gas sector, because that's the pulse of the nation. And the way the country is structured, I kept going back to it, where we have weak institutions. You can't be careless with the pulse of the nation. Oil is the pulse of the nation. So I doesn't start with him. And that is what I had in mind when I kept seeing president becoming analysis point to the fact that the responsibility that federal government has is enormous. And that comes with funding too. So if you want to fund, you must know how many kobo you are making day in, day out.
So I just wanted to say that, sorry to button, but you said that the responsibilities of the federal government are enormous, and I agree with you. Saying that the responsibilities of the federal government, and in this case, the head of the federal government being the president, they're enormous. Will that not, in a way, take him away from his responsibilities as the Minister of Petroleum? And if we look in particular at the tenure of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as both President and Minister of Petroleum, has he fared well?
Do you know how many times the MD of an organization calls the accountant in a day? That's the fund. That's the life wire of the company. So it sees accountant more than it sees the personnel, even the production manager. So it's a clear thing why they do that. The moment we have our institutions back, where things will work automatically.
You have not answered the question. I said, has President Bola Ahmed Tinubu fared well as the Minister of Petroleum?
You can't do more than what previous president has done.
No. I'm not talking about. We're not talking about previous.
The way what he's doing is what other presidents are doing. So if I'm going to rate them,
the other presidents fare well?
The way they have handled oil and gas sector, to me, I'm not happy about it, to say the truth.
So they failed?
Including the president, including this president.
So would you say that they failed?
No. I don't want you to lure me into
It's not luring. It's a direct question. It's a yes or a no question.
All of us are responsible for. I said something.
I'm not the president of the country. I can't make decisions when it comes to petrol.
The architecture of oil and gas sector in Nigeria is wrong. And all of us don't seem to look in that direction. We can't have 5 refineries to satisfy the demand of 250 million people. Even the Dangote that is coming on board is a good thing. But we can't have only Dangote. There are modular refineries. They are not getting crude oil.
Whose responsibility is it to ensure that?
Is the institution in place? Is the structure in place?
Which institution do you mean?
The way you set up, the way it is structured, it makes it difficult for you and me to have access to refineries, to have our own refineries. And we have to unbundle it, which is my demand. This should be the demand of all Nigerians, that the requirement for having a refinery should be lessened. It must not take me 5 years to have my refinery.
If a president stays for 4 years and doesn't unbundle, like you've said, and we keep on, with the same cycle, would you say that he has disappointed you and he has failed as the Minister of Petroleum?
No, don't wait for 4 years.
Okay.
We have our own life.
If he stays for 4 years.
We should not allow him to stay for 4 years.
Okay, so are you saying that?
Something must be done about it.
Okay, so
if something is not done about it, let me give you this information.
Yeah.
Fuel price will increase again on that 6 or 1 year.
Okay, so I'm saying I don't care about the other presidents, the previous presidents or the future president. I'm talking about the current president.
You should care.
No.
Because that what gave us this conclusion was how the past president has failed.
And you know what?
As Minister of Petroleum.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you that to be able to look at the future, he must be able to go back in time to correct the mistakes of the past.
Yes.
So if you say that it's not just from this president, that the presidents from the past have made a mistake, and I can see, some sense in that, and maybe I agree with you. But if there were mistakes made in the past, does it not then rest on the president who is the present president?
And that's what I'm telling him.
To correct the mistakes
that's
of
my
the past,
position.
which comes back to my question.
That's my position.
Which comes back to my question.
That if you have this current structure,
the president being Minister of Petroleum.
No. If it is this current structure, it should be the Minister of Petroleum. And what we should be advocating for is that the way we run oil and gas sector in Nigeria should change. That's what will make him relinquish his position. If it's not done, you can't relinquish your position where everything is centered the way it's centered. You won't relinquish it.
Was the president sworn in as the Minister of Petroleum?
You say what?
Was the president sworn in as the Minister of Petroleum? Same way other ministers were sworn in.
The power the president has, he can perform the role of anybody. He can decide not to.
No, he cannot perform the role of anybody. It's why we have checks and balances. Why we have systems.
Go and check your constitution very well. So don't speak with emotion.
No, it's not emotion.
It's emotion.
I just want to correct a statement.
No, it's emotion. It's emotion.
The president cannot be the police. The president cannot.
It's the police.
He cannot. No, he cannot.
Let me tell you.
Yes, he's chief security officer.
Yes.
Right. However, we have something called.
The president of Nigeria is your police.
And he's a judge as well. And he's a judge as well.
That's another arm
No,
of
but
government.
I'm just saying that in reference to you saying he can perform anybody's role. No,
that is the way this country is structured. Don't be emotional about it.
No, it's not emotions.
The power in the hand of Nigerian president. He runs 22 security reports every day from army, from navy. Who runs country like that? 36 State of the Federation is under him, the IG. He appoints him. Whereas there should be states who should preside over the security of their life. So we are looking away from addressing the issue. You are heaping everything on the president. Let's talk about the system that gave him the power. The system that gave him the power should be our concern. So oil and gas sector, as long as it is the way it is today, expect increase in fuel prices more frequently, as it is done in time, right. About 9 times. About 9 times. So our demand at the moment should be that the oil and gas sector should be unbundled. There are many modular refineries that are not getting crude oil, and the turnaround maintenance since 1985. What are they turning around?
Unbundled by who?
By the government.
Okay, and so if we have people in government who spend the time that...
By the president, if that's what you want me to say, by the president.
Okay, and so if he doesn't, would you say that he failed?
No, see, this kind of language of failing or don't feel it.
No.
We are asking him to do his duty.
If,
To perform his duty.
okay, you know what? Let's move on.
Let's talk about.
We ask him to perform his duty.
Edwin Clark asking the IGP to arrest Nyesom Wike over his statements on the PDP statements.
You see, Baba is not doing well. Baba, I respect Baba so much. That regional mechanism that Baba is trying to employ now should have come long ago. In fact, South South is the only region in Nigeria that don't have that mechanism in place. As irrecalcitrant as IPOB is, there are still organizations like the ONEZ that speak at time that no, this is insane. We can't allow our region to do this type of thing. But it's missing in the South South. What Papa should do is to create a platform for conflict resolution, so that the Rivers State governor is always fighting his predecessor. Is something not wrong with that state? So it's broader than what Papa is saying, that you should be arrested. It's broader than that. If we have other states that have economic strength like Rivers, Lagos, Kano, and in the East too, they don't suffer this kind of fate. Is it a cost that you must fight your predecessor? It's not a good thing. So it needs a broader solution. It needs a solution where everybody will be brought on board. What's the genesis of this crisis? Who offended who? So the way he's handling it now, there's no how the wicked team will be happy with him. He's an elderly person. You can't make such pronouncement when two children are fighting, particularly when they're holding two sensitive positions, a minister and a governor. Those are two important teams. And the recording decimal, the important people among all of these are the people of Rivers State who voted someone in to do roles and pay salaries and make life better for them. And this kind of issue is coming up again. So I will appeal to Baba that Baba should create a more broader platform where all of them will be brought on board. If you insist that you are going to be on the side of Fubara, the crisis will not go. It won't go away. Fubara demolished a parliament. That's an aberration. And you are not looking at that direction. Wicked too is also wading in the river Safia in a way that suggests that he's not civilized about the way he's landing his own agreement with the government. Not civilized about it.
Do you think that Nyesom Wike saying that he will put fire to the states is an insightful statement, or you think that is a statement that was just...
How can the minister say such a thing? How can the minister say such a thing? It's wrong. It shouldn't be coming from a public office holder. Even from ordinary Nigeria, it shouldn't be coming from them. But our public office holder are smart too. It's different from what someone said in Canada that will poison you, but it's different too. He said, I'm going to put fire in all the states. He's a lawyer. You have to be careful when someone says, I'm going to kill somebody tomorrow. The police can only arrest him and caution him not to kill him because it has not become specifics. Yeah. So how he's going to put the state in fire, if he's in fire, he will define it for you. Rather than someone who is being specific that this state, I will give some people money to start burning entire own state. That's specifics. So with what he has said, he can dance around it. And that is why when political class talk in Nigeria, we have to be careful in saying that they have said the wrong thing. They understand each other. So in all of this, the people should be the central focus. People of River deserve more than this. Since 1990 date, why are you doing that to those people? I sat there and I see this kind of coloration in the entire state belonging to this camp, that camp. It does not aid development and it must stop. So Baba needs to have a larger, and no matter what Baba has told him about it, it should create time to also listen to the concerns of Wike. Both of them are wrong. Both Fubara and Wike, they are wrong. They don't behave like statesmen, the two of them. And they don't have the love of their people at heart. But for me, I want the Rivers people to put this behind them and remain focused on what is going to be make Rivers State one of the greatest states in Nigeria.
Yeah. All right. Quickly also share your thoughts on the drama in the Labour Party with the removal of Julius Sabure as chairman of the Labour Party.
I'm disappointed in Labour. I want a strong opposition. I don't want this kind of opposition. As much as I love APC, and if I ask me to vote for anybody yesterday to that, it's going to be Tinubu. But that does not mean that there shouldn't be a party that should put in APC under its toe. This is not to run opposition. And political class in Nigeria, particularly the party, they have this attitude of addressing issues that should be behind the scene in public. It is not good for our politics. No country in Africa will emulate political parties in Nigeria. No country, except to come and learn how to win an election by any means necessary. That's only to come and learn from us. But to learn politics of ideology, where what drives you is program. That the program you believe in that should happen in Nigeria, I believe in to happen in Nigeria, should be the basis for me to either join or leave your party. It's not the case with all our parties, all the parties. So I'm not impressed by Labour. Labour should try to go back and rework themselves. There's hope for them in many of the states in Nigeria. There's hope everywhere. But with their attitude, whatever is the problem they have with Obi, with each other, they have to resolve. And don't forget that PDP, they are rivals. Forget the fact that when it's APC matter, they will always align to make sure that they decimate APC. Labour is becoming stronger. That is a threat to PDP. And PDP and APC will not be happy that Labour is getting stronger. So Labour should be a smart party. They are a very beautiful bride for the political future of this country. So to continue to have this kind of crisis, they are decimating them. Their followers won't be happy with them. Their followers have hope in them. Look at the last election. They came and look at the miracle they performed, the political miracle they performed in terms of performance. They almost got Lagos. And with this kind of attitude, they can't be as strong as this again in the next election, except they address all these issues. So they want to defeat APC with this attitude. They can't do. The people they say they will be getting will be increasing by number on a daily basis, basically an attitude. All parties have issues all over the world. There should be a mechanism for resolving that crisis. That crisis can be any reason. It can be petty, can be fundamental, can be serious, can be unserious issue. It's political. So they need to sit down and put their hands together. I want a strong opposition. I want fuel increase to be addressed by Labour smartly. Yeah. That NNPC, we know that does not have power to regulate again. It's also a stakeholder. And NNPC is a company importing fuel today. And that is why the federal government feels that even NNPC is importing, marketers who may weaponize importation of fuel by making sure that their seat to their tune is being defeated by making NNC a PLC. But to that extent, let's do something in such a way that we won't be importing fuel again. I want Labour to talk like that. I want PDP to talk like that. I don't want PDP to talk and say, wow, what are they saying? I want to learn something from them so that even as a friend of APC, if I want to talk to them more seriously, I will appoint to be able to tackle them and be able to engage them with. But with what they are saying, they are becoming more porous and porous every day.
As always, very interesting hearing your views. We hope that, of course, our viewers have also enjoyed them as much as we have. Thank you very much for stopping by.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much.
All right. We, of course, keep the conversations going this morning. You remember you could simply tweet at News Central TV and share your thoughts with us on any of the conversations we're having. Stay with us, take a short break, and then move into other discussions this morning on Breakfast Central.
The Lagos police have taken custody of Ayomide Adeleye, the 23-year-old suspect accused of abducting and killing Christiana Idowu, a 21-year-old student of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Adeleye was arrested by army operatives and handed over to the Lagos Police Command on Thursday. The suspect was tracked down using bank account details provided for a ransom payment of 350,000 naira, which was paid by Idowu's parents.
A smartphone also belonging to Idowu and transaction details related to kidnapping were found on the suspect. Adeleye confessed to killing Idowu and burying her in a shallow grave within his parents' compound in Ikorodu. An investigation into the case has also commenced. Now joining us is criminologist and security expert, DG Oyenuga. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Another very, very sad story. We hate that we have to even talk about these types of things ever, in Lagos or in Nigeria. But quick to share with us, from you read through the story, what are some of the things that stick out for you?
Okay. You see, the first thing that I noticed in the story was that these two individuals had a relationship. Yeah. They attend the same church. They went to the same school, secondary school or maybe primary school, and then they attend the same church too. So that means that there was a relationship. So it wasn't a total stranger.
Yeah.
But then in this case, she had to stay under his shed close to his house because of the rain. And then she was going to go to school, back to Unilag from there. Unfortunately, he invited her into the house instead of staying under the shed, and then that led to her death, according to the story. Now, most times, the people who perpetrate the most danger against people are the people that are closest to us.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing that I found in the story. And another one is that because we have not established the purpose, we are not sure it's truly an organ merchant. So we cannot conclude that he's into the sales of human parts. We cannot conclude. From that story, we cannot conclude until when the police say so. But for now, we are going to work on the impression that he lied about getting the money because he just wanted to turn that story to kidnapping or abduction so that the parents would think that it was a death resulting from kidnapping. Remember, he also tried to be an Hausa man while talking with the mom and some other people. So I feel that most times we find young people engage in all of these things. Yeah. Quick wealth, all of it. They are always in a hurry to make money. And there are too many things to account for this. I am not a fan of poverty, so I will not say that poverty is the reason. I tell people that poverty is always the easiest excuse to use. But there might be other reasons. But we all know that young people of today are always in a hurry to make money.
All right.
Always in a hurry.
What would you say are the other underlying reasons that, inform situations like this? Now, there have been several hashtags that have trended in the past year and more. Justice for Christiana now, justice for Barakat, justice for Imoren, justice for Uwa. The number of women whose names have come up, and have been killed by some of these men. What would you say are some of the underlying reasons beyond the desire for quick wealth that you've seen?
Well, the greed will always come first. So for me, you see, substance consumption is also a very strong factor. Now, all of these people have to be under one influence before they can take certain decisions. You cannot do some things. It's not easy to kill a person. You need to be under an influence unless you are used to that lifestyle. But if you are just going to do it for the first time or the first few times, you have to be under an influence. Because that thing will have to take away the humanity in you. It has to be absent before you can do all of these things. So I would say substance consumption. And of course, peer pressure is always there. Now, you don't know what they all do. I was talking with a young guy last night, and then he said he needed to level up. Now, leveling up here could mean the use of juju, diabolical means of achieving the wealth. It could also mean an additional way of facilitating that wealth. Anything can come up. So, but they will still refer to that as leveling up. That's a street language.
All right. And is there the possibility that some people just do this because of pleasure? There was a man's page, or young boy's page yesterday, they found his older tweets where he talked about the fact that he just enjoyed watching women being assaulted and being killed, and a number of these tweets they took screenshots and said they were documenting for evidence so that he doesn't go back and delete a number of these tweets. Is there the possibility, because when we hear of serial killing, we often think of it as something that happens more in the West. We don't think about it in terms of Nigeria or it's been an African thing as well. So is there a possibility that there are people who just like to kill for fun?
You see, in the current world, everywhere is almost the same. Because of globalization, we cannot say that the culture of the West is totally in the West. The culture of the West can also be found in our part of the world because it is faster for cultural traits to move now. If it happens here now for that reason, it could happen elsewhere for the same reason. Yeah. It doesn't have to be the same geographical platform or location because the cyberspace has brought us all together. So it's possible for some people to believe that they are doing it for the pleasure of it. It's possible. Young people. Because most times, because of the time that they spend online, they accumulate all those cultures, and then it becomes their own lifestyle. It doesn't have to be what is expected of them in the part of the world where they are from.
Yeah. All right. Talk about, what you expect from the police, with regards to this particular case. It's reported that she was buried in a shallow grave in his parents' house. Are they also culpable? Should they also be questioned?
The police?
No, I mean the
parents.
parents.
The parents.
The other family members.
Oh, okay. Well, they should be blamed. But the autopsy will reveal a lot more. When the body is excavated, we are going to see if organs are missing. If nothing is missing, if it's just a dead body, they have a share of that blame. You see, most parents forget that.
Well, they will have a share of the blame whether organs are missing or not. If
Exactly,
anybody's
because
buried in their house, yeah.
not even that. It has to do with the socialization of their own child.
Yeah.
It's their primary duty to teach these children how to become good members of the society. So if they have failed in that regard, if he has become that, then it's their failure too. They will certainly have a share of that blame. It doesn't mean that they are culpable. They may not be a part of it, but how could something like that happen in a compound? And of course, it dug a hole, not deep, a shallow hole, but it was still hole. It will take time. It's not something that could be done in 5 minutes. It's something that will take time because the body is big. So somebody would have known. Most crimes go, there's no way all crimes will go unnoticed. There's always someone somewhere who will notice some things. And we are not sure they live alone in their compound.
Yeah, you're a criminologist. I'm not sure if you deal with a lot of similar cases and people of this age. But help us go through the mind of a person who will commit a crime like this. What gives a 23-year-old the mental capacity to kill? I mean, money is one thing that can be easily blamed, they're set for money, but to take another life.
I said it earlier on that it's not that easy to take a life. That means the person will have to go through some sort of reorientation. You see, they are exposed to a lot of things, and they consume a lot of things too. We know on the street that there are lots of drugs, substances that they take. The very popular among them is the Colorado Colos.
Yeah.
Now you know that the moment they consume that, they don't have an idea of what they are doing anymore. They are no longer in control of their lives. So anything can happen at that point in time. And I tell young people that under the influence of drugs, they can become anything. So their exposure is one. The kind of people that they socialize with is another one. But if you could go that far, coming up with a text message, becoming another person, coming up with a Sportybet account for the transfer of money, then it's not like he doesn't have any idea. It is possible. There's a possibility that he had been in this kind of situation before. Yes, or maybe he has friends who knows how to do this. So he might not be alone in the real sense of it.
So then there's a possibility that there are more people that are
Yes, he might not be alone.
Especially because there are also allegations about this not being an isolated event. There are allegations of a sister.
Criminal history, yeah.
Yeah, and another woman being killed by him, although these are still subject to investigation. And we're hoping that the police can give us a more detailed report.
But they found with him a lot of phones belonging to other people. So young people do a lot of things. Recently in my university, we were doing an examination. One student, one person, a young person, I don't want to call him a student, came from as far away as Agoiwoye to steal from the examination hall. Then he carried the bag that has more than 4 phones. Fortunately, the owner of the bag spotted him, and then we started running around. By the time we got outside, we didn't really see his face. He was telling us that it was that person. That was when everybody turned around, yeah, it was you. Then we caught him.
And I agree that, right now we have a culture that glorifies wealth, undue wealth, and the message that we pass in media and music. And we must do something about that. And we must also go back to the family unit to instill the right values. But I want us to talk about another angle, which is the angle of gender and the role that gender plays in all of this. There's a story of the athlete in Uganda, Rebecca Cheptegei, who was killed by her boyfriend. He walked into her room, poured gasoline on her, set her on fire. She didn't survive the burns. And that's not an isolated incident. Just like you mentioned, the number of women who have been killed by intimate partners. And there's statistics to back that up. The United Nations has statistics to back that up. So talk to us about the role that gender plays in these killings and why a number of women will come out to cry on social media that, stop killing women. There's something called femicide. What's role or what's the psychology of gender being involved in this?
You see, in our part of the world, we have always seen the other gender, from my point of view, as the subordinate. And they are socialized to accept their position as subordinated positions. We also realized that over the years, some group of people among them came out and said, we are feminists. We do not want to be in the subordinated position anymore. We want to compete with the men. But then you realize that gender, there will always be a separation, biological separation. But gender is social. We can give it any meaning. And that is why you see in the other part of the world that we don't call men and women. You can be genderless if you choose to be. You can choose not to be anything. You can choose to be a man before, then a woman now, a woman before, then a man now, transgendered. You may choose not to identify. So all of these things are changing, and all of these things are coming to our part of the world. You see a lot of women telling you that they don't think marriage is important. And there are lots of technologies that can help them achieve their goals. They don't necessarily need to be married before they have children. They don't necessarily need to carry their baby before they have a baby, because there are several ways of having the baby. There are several ways of getting pregnant. So the line is getting thinner, and equality, we are getting that level of equality that we expect in our part of the world. So women are not exactly as subordinated as they used to be in the past.
So are you saying that there's an element of subordination that plays a part in in these killings that we're seeing?
No, it's not that. None of them have said that. But we know that across the world, women and children have always been the most vulnerable component of the population.
Okay, all right. We, of course, have run out of time for the conversation, but we do hope that there will be more details that would emerge regarding this investigation and that we can talk more about this. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Oyeniga, for joining us.
Welcome.
All right. And that's how we wrap up the show today. Thank you very much for joining us on this week's broadcast of Breakfast Central. Remember that Breakfast Extra continues tomorrow, starts at 8 a.m., so tune in to join Mazino and Judith for the biggest stories across the weekend. But until we come your way again, my name is Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaoge Ogbon. See you next week.